What's going on here? The most bullish billionaire in Bitcoin does it again, but this time he changed his recent price prediction, but not for the reasons you may think. And some of those may surprise you. And on top of that, Michael Saylor is still buying Bitcoin, even with these bullish price predictions. We're going to get into all of that today. But first, let's listen to his legendary speech that he had predicting $21 million Bitcoin here at BTC Prague.
See 21 million. Specifically, I expect 21 million coins at a $21 million price in 21 years. And people ask, how's the network going to grow? It's going to be growing at 21% in 21 years. The volatility is going to be 21. This is all. The only number you need to remember is the number 21.
Now, Michael Saylor, being extremely bullish that he is actually increasing his price prediction that he had from years past. Now, we're going to go over the prior years and why that has shifted. And he even made the argument in this great speech that he had from BTC Prague. But I think it's significant that he's picking the number 21 over everything, right? He's going 21 million Bitcoin, $21 million per coin, 21% ARR. The list goes on and on. The man loves the number 21, as many of us do. But this price prediction is significant because he's raising his Bitcoin forecast by a bit. He doubled down on his Bitcoin price prediction as previously, citing massive geopolitical and regulatory changes. So this means his price prediction could potentially keep going up and up and up every single year he gives one of these speeches, because things just keep getting more and more bullish and more corporations start buying. And we'll get into another huge announcement. We heard of that more today, but this price prediction keeps raising up. He's the strategy co-founder. He's doubled down 21 million Bitcoin in 21 years. And last year, he predicted 13 million by 2045. So we'll go over that last year's prediction here in a second, but he's seen adoption that's nobody's guessed, right? Stuff that happened in the past 11 months has been extraordinary, the development. He's been bullish, and last time when Bitcoin was 16,000 and the Donald Trump presidential victory essentially changed everything, right? So strategy continues to hold a bunch of Bitcoin, and this price prediction has essentially changed everything. And these geopolitical and regulatory developments have been absolutely drastic. We've got more central banks now talking about Bitcoin. We've got, countries like El Salvador, Kingdom of Bhutan, but we have the United States coming in and creating this Bitcoin strategic reserve. And on top of that, Saylor in his talk lined out 12 different members of Congress and Trump's party cabinet that have Bitcoin or Bitcoin exposure or are, into Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form, whether privately or publicly, that they've spoken to. The majority of those ones that he's spoken about were public figures who are extremely bullish on Bitcoin and have announced that publicly. So there's a ton to be bullish about. And this 21 million, the geopolitical shifts, we didn't think that the president would say America would be a Bitcoin superpower of the world. And this is an amazing development. Now, strategy continued to buy more and more Bitcoin. We'll go over their buy today. But I think it's interesting on why he said that these changes could be made. If you remember last year at the Nashville conference, this was the argument. He showed this very great chart here, which is the one I have on the thumbnail, which I think is outstanding. Bitcoin is $1 trillion market. Gold is a $12 trillion market. But if you look at all of these different markets, Bitcoin is just a small proportion of all of these global assets, which are valued at 900 trillion total. And so the 13 million playbook, the 21 million price forecast has essentially been thrown out the window. He thinks that it's going to be 21 million by the year 2046. So this is a big jump in the ARR, right? So he had the 21% ARR initially, but Bitcoin has already surpassed that previous ARR from when it was at 65% or 65K, excuse me, to be even higher. So that 21% ARR is now 21 million in 21 years. Where at this time, that 21 million or that 21% ARR was getting Bitcoin to 3 million. And then we've also seen his base case was 13 million. And a year later now, he's predicting his base case for 21 years down the road to be 21 million, which would be a lot bigger than that 21 ARR for the year over year return of that 13 million price prediction. So he's already predicting that this is going to smash and break through everything because these policies that he's shifted have seen just massive development in everything. We're starting to see Bitcoin on balance sheets accelerate. We're starting to see these skyrocket in flight just absolutely take off. And one thing that we are seeing too is these policies are starting to continue to go up, right? So we're starting to see, hey, Anthony Pompliano, who has a 1.7 million followers on Twitter, one of the biggest YouTube channels in the space, raising $1 billion to create ProCap Financial. The company will be a publicly traded entity, and at the conclusion of the proposed business combo, they'll be raising to basically buy Bitcoin. He's already raised over $750 million, which is the largest initial fundraise in history for a publicly traded Bitcoin treasury company. Doesn't this sound familiar? We literally saw a month and a half ago the largest raise ever by 21 and Jack Mallers. Then that got smashed through by Nakamoto and David Bailey to have the largest raise by a Bitcoin publicly traded company ever. And then now Pomp, just a month or month and a half so later, doing it again. So more and more and more of these companies just keep coming on. So it's already absolutely crazy how much we're just seeing here. But it's interesting that Saylor said all this. Like, is he running out of money? I know last time I went over his bullish price prediction, he was literally buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. This week, he only bought 26 million. Only. I guess he looks at more of the MNAV and how it's priced as a determinant to whether or not he is buying. But that isn't slowing everybody else down, right? We got Metaplanet, who has so much more access in the Japanese market and the desire for this. Michael Saylor actually said in a keynote here that, the desire in the Japanese market for a Bitcoin related product is significantly higher than it is in the US, simply because the US, now we could just have a bunch of different, aspects here. We could have a bunch more things kind of come about. So with this, right, we're going to have now more and more corporations start to come on, and more corporations start to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Well, Japan, Metaplanet's basically the only game in town here. And so they could raise a bunch of money to get more Bitcoin. And look at this. Metaplanet's path to 2,100 or 210,000, Bitcoin here by the fiscal year of 2027. So they're looking to literally 21x their Bitcoin holdings here and get to that. So I think that that's going to continue to raise up. And it's interesting because of what we're seeing. We're seeing more of these entities start to come about. I think when I started looking at this Bitcoin treasuries, there was like 33 companies that were publicly traded now holding Bitcoin. And then earlier this year, there was like 111. Now we have 135, and that number keeps raising up. We didn't have 21. That was non-existent. Now we have Metaplanet just continuing to buy. And look at these charts. They just keep going up. Soon enough, Metaplanet is going to pass Tesla as the seventh most Bitcoin or seventh biggest company holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And it's not just the Bitcoin, it's not just the Bitcoin companies that are continuing to buy Bitcoin. It's a lot more, right? We're having like these ETFs, the spot Bitcoin ETFs just surpassed $1 trillion in trading volume in 18 months of launch. This is the most successful ETFs launch in history, and it's not even close. There is no second best when it comes to this. So the amount of buying pressure that we're seeing from here is absolutely bananas. We've got Bitcoin treasury companies popping out left and right, left and right, left and right. And then we've got the ETFs that are still humming along. And the trading volume of these products is absolutely massive. But look, I always I encourage you guys to hold your Bitcoin in cold storage. Now, I partnered with my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. Now you could go to thebitcoinwell.com/green candle and go and sign up today, as I'm getting phone calls while I'm on this live stream here for you guys. But anyway, you guys should go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle, sign up today, and continue to stack in cold storage. Don't get on those ETFs. Now here we go. Boom. We got 569 sats. All you got to do is hit subscribe button with the bell notifications so you know when I'm going live, and hit that like button. And you could get some free sats every single time you come to a Green Candle live stream. Now, on top of that, bitcoinwell.com/green candle if you missed it. If you got 50K or more, you saw Bitcoin under 100K after what happened this weekend. Now, you might not be able to see that again, but I encourage you guys to go there. And if Bitcoin in cold storage is daunting to you, go to thebitcoinway.com/green candle. I know I look like a funeral director, but it's the death to fiat here. Book a consultation. The boys can help you get Bitcoin off an exchange, can help you do so much more. All you got to do is go get a free consultation. They've got 25 years of cybersecurity and experience, and you got to do it. You got to do it quickly, because there's only 2 million Bitcoin left on exchanges. 2.8 million, according to this chart here, right? So we're seeing the amount of Bitcoin off exchanges be taken off at an exponential rate. And I keep saying there's the chance of the supply squeeze, and I fully believe that. I think that there's going to be a ton of other people, a ton of other entities that are going to come and try to pull Bitcoin off an exchange. And I think it's coming quick. McLovin in the chat is like, I feel like all this institutional adopted corporation is only building pressure for inevitable Bitcoin eruption. I agree with you, sir. And hey, 6 years today, Bitcoin will be, or 6 years from now, Bitcoin will be 21. I agree. Keep the content. People don't realize how much potential this company has. 901 shares, MSTR HODL. I definitely think so. I got 40 trillion mini Bitcoin for President Trump to pay us. What's up, America? I got your back. Hey, maybe, maybe not. But either way, what we are seeing is the amount of Bitcoins taken off. And it's really encouraging to see that people are putting Bitcoin in cold storage and continuing to do so, right? Because we're starting to see these publicly traded companies really start to come on with a vengeance. And we saw Bitcoin dip under 100K for the first time since it repassed it here recently. And we're seeing the largest preferred stock offerings come in since 2021, right? STRD, Michael Saylor, STRK, STRF. Literally has three of the top, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Three of the top 10 out here. And that's just from the initial offerings. So these bond investors are looking at Bitcoin and looking at what Michael Saylor is doing and saying, hey, we want a little piece of this, right? Even though we saw Bitcoin dip under 100K, it's all the way back up again already, right? We already got it back over at 102. So everybody was really worried about what we were seeing in the Bitcoin space. But in reality, what Michael Saylor is showing and what all of these are showing is that they've got the most pristine collateral on the planet. They know that Bitcoin is going to be the way. They know that all of these different aspects of what we're seeing in the Bitcoin space, it's just essentially making up for all of these things, right? We think that, when we see things like this, when we see like things like Pomp raising a ProCap Financial to go public, and it's going to be on their ticker CCCM. I mean, these things are just like, it's buying up a ton of the Bitcoin daily supply, or at least they're going to here in the near future. And they're going to be announcing those Bitcoin buys. But remember one thing about these things, these publicly traded institutions, when you guys see that these institutions and everything are buying, they're announcing buys from, last week today. They're announcing buys from all of these things. So we get all of the notice either right at the quarter's end, all of these different timings, and then everybody's like, hey, why isn't Bitcoin pumping on this news? Right? Remember, markets are usually forward looking, but Bitcoin, we have to be stacking in the background. That's what everybody's doing. So I think it's interesting that everybody looks at these things and says, hey, why isn't the price absolutely exploding right here, right now? And then we get the bears coming out, at all times. When we get things like, Peter Schiff coming in here and obviously rage baiting everybody and asking, hey, other than Saylor, who's buying the dip below 100K? I mean, look at the first comment right under here. David Bailey literally raising his hand. Who is David Bailey? Oh, yeah, he's the CEO of a Bitcoin treasury company named Nakamoto, right? So all of these things are really starting to increase and increase rapidly, right? So these buys, they keep coming closer together. More of these Bitcoiners, more of these, publicly traded companies are starting to come. And Michael Saylor's lining it out that we just haven't really seen all of this, right? And then the M2 money supply on top of it all, the divergence. M2 money supply is still signaling for 150K Bitcoin in Q3, Q4, right? I'm not one to always look at the charts and say, hey, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But I do think it's interesting that everybody has gotten so bearish here in the recent time period. It's like, why are we getting bearish when we're crashing to 98,000? I mean, we're seeing the M2 money supply increase, and we're seeing Trump essentially, potentially cause a big giant global war. Now, are we going to cut interest rates? I mean, the chance here right now is a 22.7% chance. This is the CME group they love to show. But the current target rate is 425 to 450. So there's a 73% chance or 77.3% chance that we stay at this target. But, it looks like there's a chance that we cut. Previous times when I've shown this, it definitely looks a little bit more grim. It looks like, Powell is kind of staying more firm. But this chart here, 22, it's really not out of the question, right? We're going to see more of a development start to come through. And I think it's going to be encouraging on all of the different aspects that we start to see, really starting to rise up. Joe is saying Saylor is definitely not running out of money. They repeat this pattern quite often. 1 week they'll buy a couple billion, 1 week only a couple million. He's very calculated. It's interesting because, I mean, you would think you would save the billion buys for when Bitcoin's prices dip. But hey, I mean, you can't really call the market, right? It is very interesting. But MSTR, like I said, even though, we've seen Bitcoin crash, they're still buying, right? They are still buying. And maybe it's, more of because of what they're looking at, right? It's more of, why they, it's more of their Bitcoin price holdings. And they currently have this going on at all times. MSTR price, the month return. Like, this is on their website, so you guys can go and check this out. I just pulled this up here just now. How much Bitcoin per share. They're nearing that 600,000 Bitcoin. And their MNAV is 1.89. I mean, Michael Saylor came out and said it at the Michael Saylor came out and said it here during Bitcoin Prague. Basically said, hey, if you're looking at the amount of Bitcoin that you have as on the balance sheet and the MNAV, well, that's when he's determining when to buy. But the reality is, folks, all you could do is keep stacking, keep putting it in cold storage, and keep doing the damn thing. Please smoke that like Cheech Chong, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thank you guys all for coming out.